Joe Goldberg is one of the most chilling and complex characters in modern psychological thrillers. From the very beginning, he presents himself as charming, intelligent, and seemingly sensitive, but beneath that facade lies a dangerously obsessive mind. His story is a study of how charisma and intelligence can mask a deeply pathological personality. Joe's actions blur the line between love and violence, and his life is a cautionary tale about the terrifying extremes of obsession. His childhood experiences, marked by neglect and abuse, laid the foundation for his twisted perception of relationships. Growing up without stable parental guidance, he developed a warped understanding of affection and control. Joe's intellect and ability to manipulate others became his tools for survival, but they also shaped his destructive patterns. He learned early on that love, to him, was inseparable from possession and control, which would later dictate every interaction he had with those he claimed to care for. As an adult, Joe's obsessions escalated from infatuation to stalking, manipulation, and ultimately murder. Every relationship he engages in becomes a power play, with him always lurking behind the scenes, observing and calculating. He is able to rationalize his heinous acts as acts of protection or love, which makes him all the more terrifying because he genuinely believes in the morality of his crimes. His intelligence becomes his weapon, and his charm is the mask that hides a killer beneath. Joe's descent into darkness is also a reflection of societal blind spots regarding toxic behaviors. People around him are often charmed, naive, or distracted, which allows him to continue his manipulations undetected. This not only emphasizes his cunning but also the terrifying reality that evil can wear a friendly face. The audience is left conflicted. We are repelled by his actions but also drawn to his narrative, highlighting the disturbing power of psychological manipulation. 1. Neglected childhood. Joe grew up with an absent or neglectful family, which created a deep yearning for attention and love. He learned to equate affection with control and obsession. Without proper guidance, his early experiences warped his moral compass. Emotional neglect led him to crave validation and connection at any cost. Joe's formative years were marked by instability, fostering feelings of loneliness and resentment. The absence of healthy relationships taught him that love is something to capture and manipulate. This foundation would define his obsession-driven behaviors later in life. He developed a sense of entitlement to the attention he never received. Every relationship in his adult life became an echo of the love he never got as a child. He equated attachment with possession, believing that to love someone was to control them completely. The lack of boundaries during childhood left him unable to respect others' autonomy. Early trauma contributed to his impulsive decisions and lack of empathy. He learned that extreme measures are acceptable if they achieve emotional satisfaction. This sense of moral ambiguity became central to his identity. Joe's mind normalized surveillance and manipulation as ways to secure affection. The emotional void in his childhood created a hunger for control disguised as love. He viewed intimacy as a game of dominance. Without love as a safe space, Joe's approach became inherently destructive. He internalized the idea that being loved justifies extreme actions. His early experiences hardened him against guilt. These childhood wounds never healed, fueling lifelong patterns of obsession. His desire to fix or rescue people often turned violent. Childhood neglect made Joe dangerously self-centered. His early experiences explain why he could commit acts of evil without remorse. 2. Early obsession with love. From a young age, Joe developed an unhealthy fixation on attachment. He was fascinated by the idea of being desired and having total control over someone's feelings. This obsession became a lens through which he viewed all relationships. He could not experience love in a balanced way. Every connection had a transactional, manipulative element. His early obsessions were harmless at first but laid the groundwork for future dangerous behaviors. They fueled a compulsive need to monitor and control those he cared about. The line between protection and possession became blurred. Joe's obsession was a coping mechanism for his loneliness. It provided him a sense of purpose and identity. Every crush or infatuation triggered obsessive routines, including following and gathering information. He began rationalizing unethical behaviors in the pursuit of closeness. His fixation often escalated quickly, showing a lack of emotional regulation. This pattern became more severe as he aged. Obsession replaced genuine intimacy. It created a cycle of stalking, deceit, and manipulation. He developed the belief that his interventions were justified acts of love. The obsessive behaviors escalated to violence when he felt rejected or threatened. This obsession is central to understanding why he became a killer. His perception of love as domination makes him dangerous. These patterns explain his manipulative tactics in adulthood. He never experienced healthy relational boundaries. This obsession drove him to murder, thinking he was protecting or saving his partners. It became an inseparable part of his psyche. Every action, no matter how evil, was rationalized through this obsession. 3. Intellectual superiority and manipulation. Joe possesses a sharp intellect, which he uses to manipulate and control others. He is highly observant, reading people's behaviors to anticipate their reactions. This intellectual prowess allows him to rationalize his crimes and justify his morality. He creates elaborate plans to remove obstacles in his relationships, often preying on vulnerabilities. Joe uses his intelligence to mask his dark motives with charm and wit. His manipulative skills are not just opportunistic, they are strategic and deliberate. He can create believable narratives to avoid suspicion. Joe's intellect enables him to control narratives both in his mind and in the lives of others. He studies human behavior meticulously. This allows him to exploit weaknesses for personal gain. His manipulations are psychologically sophisticated. He isolates victims gradually, making them dependent on him emotionally. Joe's intelligence makes him a formidable predator. He anticipates risks and prepares contingencies for almost every scenario. This calculated approach sets him apart from impulsive criminals. He uses his intellect to manipulate both law enforcement and acquaintances. Even his most intimate partners are unaware of the depth of his deceit. His intelligence is a weapon in maintaining his carefully constructed persona. It allows him to appear normal while committing heinous acts. This cognitive skill makes him exceptionally dangerous. He understands moral boundaries but chooses to cross them strategically. His intellect fosters a sense of superiority, justifying his actions in his mind. He believes his reasoning gives him the right to decide life and death. 4. Serial killing. Joe kills those he perceives as threats to his relationships. Each murder is rationalized as a necessary act of love or self-preservation. He meticulously plans killings to avoid suspicion. The moral justification he constructs makes him capable of extreme violence. Victims are often chosen based on their perceived threat to his obsession. Joe feels a sense of righteousness after killing, believing he protects the people he loves. This creates a chilling dissonance. He sees himself as a hero rather than a villain. He eliminates rivals, threats, and even innocents if they obstruct his goals. Murder is a tool to control narrative and relationships. His killings are emotionally detached yet deeply calculated. He prepares, executes, and covers up murders with meticulous attention. He rarely acts purely impulsively. Premeditation defines his crimes. His intelligence ensures he can manipulate evidence and perception. Killing becomes a normalized behavior in his psyche. He balances charm and menace to prevent detection. The thrill of control is part of his motivation. Each act reinforces his belief in his moral code. He believes love can justify even the darkest actions. This rationalization is central to understanding Joe's evil. It makes him unpredictable and terrifying. He sees murder as a natural extension of obsession. His killings reflect a deeply ingrained moral blindness. They reveal the true extent of his evil. 5. Obsessive stalking patterns. Joe's obsession manifests in relentless stalking, which becomes both a compulsion and a method of control. He meticulously tracks the movements, habits, and social interactions of those he desires. Every social media post, every conversation, every glance is catalogued in his mind, allowing him to anticipate and manipulate events. This behavior is fueled by his belief that he can protect or save his victims, even if they are unaware of his presence. Stalking gives him a sense of power and omnipresence, as if he is in total control of someone else's life. He derives satisfaction from knowing intimate details that no one else does. This control reinforces his delusions of love and moral justification. The act of watching becomes ritualistic, almost addictive, as it feeds his ego and sense of purpose. Even when relationships seem stable, his paranoia triggers new surveillance. He rationalizes every breach of privacy as necessary for the safety of the people he obsesses over. This pattern escalates as he ages, evolving from covert observation to invasive intrusion. His stalking is both premeditated and emotionally compulsive. He studies victims' routines with obsessive precision. Every move is calculated to prevent exposure and maximize influence. Joe uses information gathered to manipulate, isolate, or threaten, ensuring compliance. This obsessive behavior is a hallmark of his controlling nature. It demonstrates how far he will go to satisfy his delusions of love. His vigilance borders on pathological, leaving no space for others' autonomy. Stalking is not just a tool, it is an expression of his identity as a manipulator and predator. It feeds his sense of superiority over those he targets. This compulsion is central to understanding why Joe escalates from obsession to murder. His stalking reflects his belief that love is ownership. The intensity of this behavior reveals the frightening extremity of his evil. 6. Rationalization of evil. Joe is a master at convincing himself that his actions, no matter how heinous, are morally justified. Murder, manipulation, and deceit are all filtered through a self-constructed moral framework. He believes that by eliminating threats, he is protecting those he loves. Every lie and crime is justified as a necessary step to achieve a good outcome. This rationalization allows him to act with chilling calm and precision. Joe's mind operates with a dangerous blend of logic and delusion. He perceives himself as a savior, not a killer. Even when confronted with the harm he causes, he twists reality to maintain his moral self-image. Rationalization fuels his persistence and courage to commit further crimes. It also shields him from guilt and remorse. This moral blindness is a defining feature of his evil. It creates a cognitive fortress where his obsession is justified, no matter the cost. His rationalizations are sophisticated, allowing him to manipulate others while maintaining internal consistency. By reframing murder as protection, he silences his conscience. This mindset ensures that every action reinforces his sense of superiority. Rationalization is key to his psychological survival. It prevents self-doubt and hesitation. The danger lies in the combination of intelligence and moral distortion. His logic is weaponized to justify extreme behavior. This enables him to continue a cycle of obsession, manipulation, and murder without hesitation. Rationalization is a lens through which every evil act becomes a necessary evil. Joe's self-justifications make him unpredictable and dangerous. His moral reasoning is a mask over a deeply malicious core. It fuels his capacity for long-term planning. Ultimately, this rationalization transforms him from an obsessive individual into a calculating, remorseless predator. 7. Inability to empathize. Despite his outward charm, Joe lacks genuine empathy for others. He can mimic emotions convincingly but does not truly feel the suffering he causes. This emotional detachment allows him to manipulate, betray, and kill without remorse. He views people as extensions of his desires rather than autonomous beings. The suffering of others is secondary to his goals. Empathy is only displayed when it serves his manipulative purpose. This lack of genuine feeling is a hallmark of his sociopathy. Joe's charm becomes a tool, not an expression of care. He understands emotional cues but only to exploit them. Even in intimate moments, he prioritizes control over connection. His inability to empathize contributes to the cold precision of his crimes. Emotional detachment allows him to rationalize murder as an act of love. It also isolates him from authentic human relationships. The lack of moral restraint makes him exceptionally dangerous. He can plan long-term strategies without being hindered by guilt. Joe's worldview reduces people to objects or obstacles. He can inflict harm and watch consequences unfold without internal conflict. His actions demonstrate a chilling absence of conscience. This makes his violence unpredictable and relentless. Emotional detachment amplifies the impact of his manipulations. It also intensifies the terror he instills in victims. The combination of intelligence and lack of empathy defines his evil. Joe's actions are not just obsessive but calculated and remorseless. He is a predator operating under the guise of a loving partner. 8. Destructive obsessions with women. Joe's obsessions almost exclusively center on women, whom he perceives as objects of desire and control. He believes that he knows what is best for them, regardless of their own wishes. This distorted paternalistic view justifies extreme measures, including surveillance, coercion, and murder. Women become symbols of his need for validation, love, and dominance. Each obsession escalates, moving from infatuation to invasive control. Joe's behavior is fueled by possessiveness disguised as protection. His interactions with women often begin with charm and intelligence but end in manipulation or harm. He isolates his partners from others to maintain control. This pattern reflects a dangerous combination of misogyny, obsession, and intelligence. Women are dehumanized in his worldview, existing primarily to fulfill his emotional needs. His relationships are structured around dominance rather than mutual respect. Obsession fuels a sense of entitlement over women's choices. Joe rationalizes violence as necessary to maintain his idealized vision of love. His actions create a cycle of terror, as each woman becomes a potential victim. These obsessions are meticulously maintained, often over long periods. He studies vulnerabilities to exploit fear and dependence. The obsessive nature of his relationships makes him a consistent threat. Even those who escape his grasp remain psychologically scarred. His obsessions reveal the depth of his control and cruelty. They also demonstrate a systematic pattern of predatory behavior. This obsession is central to understanding Joe's moral corruption. It is both the motivation for and the justification of his evil acts. His relationships are laboratories for manipulation, obsession, and violence. 9. Compulsive control over narrative. Joe's need to control extends beyond people to the narrative of his life. He edits, manipulates, and lies to shape perception. Every event is reframed to maintain his image of morality and charm. He monitors social media, communications, and even legal outcomes to maintain this control. The compulsion ensures he can influence not only outcomes but also how others perceive him. This extends to his victims, who are often unaware of the manipulation surrounding them. Control over narrative allows him to evade justice repeatedly. It also reinforces his superiority complex. Joe's manipulation of perception ensures that he is the architect of reality in his immediate world. He rewrites stories to avoid exposure. This obsession with narrative extends to his own internal rationalizations. He meticulously plans contingencies for unexpected developments. Controlling the narrative satisfies both ego and practical needs. It enables him to maintain relationships on his terms. Joe's manipulation of storylines underscores the premeditation of his crimes. His compulsive need for control reflects an inability to tolerate uncertainty. It also shows the intersection of intelligence and malice. The act of controlling narrative becomes a psychological weapon. Victims are caught in a web of lies, fear, and deception. This obsession enhances his manipulative power. It allows him to maintain dominance without direct confrontation. His narrative control contributes to the terrifying nature of his evil. It ensures that his image and influence remain unchallenged. 10. capacity for deception. Joe is an expert liar, capable of crafting believable narratives that hide his true intentions. His deception is both strategic and compulsive. He blends charm, intelligence, and empathy to manipulate perceptions. Lies are tailored to the individual, exploiting weaknesses and desires. Joe can maintain multiple facades simultaneously, each adapted to context. This skill allows him to infiltrate lives undetected. Deception reinforces his obsession by creating false intimacy. Victims are lulled into trust, unaware of the danger they face. His lies often involve complex premeditation and psychological insight. Joe anticipates counterarguments and suspicion, covering tracks meticulously. This capacity for deceit extends to law enforcement, friends, and family. He rationalizes dishonesty as necessary to protect love or himself. Deception is a survival tool and a means of control. Joe thrives on the gap between perception and reality. His lies often manipulate victims' emotions and choices. Deception allows him to isolate and dominate. It also shields him from guilt and exposure. His skill ensures that his crimes remain hidden or misattributed. This mastery of lies reflects both intelligence and moral corruption. It demonstrates the depth of his strategic thinking. Joe's deception is a cornerstone of his ability to commit evil undetected. It ensures he remains one step ahead at all times. Joe Goldberg is the embodiment of calculated evil hidden behind a facade of charm. Every act he commits, from manipulation to murder, is executed with meticulous planning, reflecting a mind that thrives on control and domination. His intelligence, obsession, and lack of empathy make him a terrifyingly efficient predator. He is a man who believes that love justifies any act, no matter how heinous, and this delusion fuels every step of his dark journey. His obsessions with women reveal a dangerous mix of misogyny, possessiveness, and psychological manipulation. Joe's relationships are never mutual, they are exercises in control and ownership. He isolates, monitors, and deceives to maintain dominance, creating environments where his victim's autonomy is completely erased. Every encounter is a test of power, and he navigates it with chilling precision. His evil is not impulsive, it is deliberate, premeditated, and relentless. Joe's lack of genuine empathy allows him to commit unspeakable acts without remorse. Murder, betrayal, and manipulation are filtered through a self-constructed moral framework where he is always justified. This moral blindness, combined with intellectual cunning, makes him almost untouchable. He rationalizes atrocities as acts of protection or love, creating a terrifying psychological paradox. He is both charming and monstrous, affectionate and lethal. His obsessive surveillance and compulsion to control narratives further highlight the depths of his malevolence. Joe's life is an intricate web of deception, where every move is calculated to maintain dominance and avoid exposure. Even his closest partners are ensnared in a labyrinth of lies, unable to see the true horror until it's too late. He weaponizes trust, empathy, and intimacy, transforming relationships into arenas for psychological torture. Ultimately, Joe Goldberg is a modern archetype of evil, intelligent, manipulative, and utterly remorseless. He is not just a villain but a mirror to the darkest aspects of obsession and control. His story warns that charm can mask danger, and that obsession, when combined with moral distortion and intelligence, can create a predator capable of the unthinkable. Joe's evil is as seductive as it is terrifying, and his legacy is a chilling testament to the destructive power of obsession disguised as love.